They say that when Alexander the Great died in 323 BC, the world held its breath. The man who had conquered half the known world, whose armies stretched from Greece to the edge of India, who had toppled empires and created his own, was suddenly gone, struck down at the height of his power, at just 32 years old. But as mysterious as his death was, what followed is even stranger, because over 2,000 years later, with all our satellites, excavations, and ancient texts at our disposal, we still haven't found his tomb. Not in Babylon, not in Alexandria, not in Siwa, not in Memphis. Nowhere. The final resting place of history's greatest conqueror has vanished. Why? That question has haunted historians for centuries, and today we embark on a journey through time, tracing dusty scrolls, navigating ancient politics, and venturing deep into forgotten cities, in search of a grave fit for a god. In June of 323 BC, Alexander died in the palace of Nebuchadnezzar II in Babylon. The cause remains hotly debated: fever, poisoning, malaria, typhoid, or even the rare Guillain-Barré syndrome. Whatever the case, his death was sudden, and the aftermath chaotic. You see, Alexander hadn't named a clear successor. His empire was stitched together by ambition and charisma. But without its weaver, it began to unravel. His generals, known as the Diadochi, began to fight over territory and legacy. Because in the ancient world, a ruler's corpse wasn't just a relic, it was a symbol. Whoever possessed Alexander's body could claim a piece of his power, his divine right to rule. So a tug-of-war began. At first, his body was to be transported to Aegae in Macedonia, the royal burial ground of his ancestors. But then came Ptolemy I, one of Alexander's most trusted generals, and the future founder of the Ptolemaic dynasty in Egypt. He intercepted the funeral procession in Syria, stole the corpse, and took it to Egypt. Why? Because possessing Alexander's body meant political legitimacy, and there was no better way to anchor his new rule in Egypt than to hold the remains of the man who had conquered it. In Egypt, the legend takes root. Ptolemy housed the body in Memphis at first, but later, perhaps under Ptolemy II or Ptolemy IV, it was moved to Alexandria, the city Alexander himself had founded. And there, a grand mausoleum was constructed, the Soma. Described by ancient writers as a gilded sanctuary, its walls glimmered with gold and glass, and the sarcophagus, first of gold, later said to be of crystal or alabaster, lay at the heart of it all. The tomb became a pilgrimage site for emperors and generals. Julius Caesar visited it. So did Augustus, who is said to have placed flowers on Alexander's body and accidentally broke its nose. Caligula reportedly stole Alexander's breastplate. Septimius Severus later sealed the tomb, fearing looting. Caracalla offered tribute and a full military parade in his honor. For centuries, the tomb was not just remembered, it was real. A physical monument to the man who had once ruled the known world. So what happened? How could something so revered, so grand, simply vanish? By the 4th century AD, references to the tomb begin to fade. By the 5th century, Alexandria had become Christian, and then Islamic. Pagan temples were defaced or repurposed, earthquakes ravaged the city, tidal waves battered the coast. The city's water table rose and ancient streets sank beneath the sea. And in the chaos, Alexander's tomb disappeared from history. Some say it was destroyed during riots. Others think it lies buried beneath modern Alexandria, under layers of medieval and modern construction. True? We don't know. Even Napoleon searched for it during his Egyptian campaign in 1798, but found nothing. Modern archaeologists have combed the city's catacombs, temples, and even underwater ruins. Each time, false hopes, dead ends. The ancient texts themselves are contradictory. Strabo places the tomb in the royal quarter, now completely buried beneath modern Alexandria. Ibn Abd al-Hakam, a 9th century Arab historian, claimed Alexander was buried at the corner of the city in a stone building. Later, Leo Africanus, in the 16th century, wrote that a tomb thought to be Alexander's had recently been discovered. But again, the trail went cold. In the early 20th century, Greek architect Stelios Chouliarakis claimed to have found the tomb's foundations, but his findings were dismissed. More recently, in 1995, a crypt beneath the Mosque of Nebi Daniel in Alexandria was proposed as a potential site, but Egyptian authorities denied excavation. There's even a theory that Alexander's body was secretly moved to Venice and lies in the tomb of Saint Mark. DNA testing has been proposed, but the Church refuses to allow it. And then there's the Siwa theory. Some believe Alexander was not buried in Alexandria at all, but returned to the very place that crowned him divine. The Siwa Oasis, deep in the Egyptian desert. It was there that Alexander, dressed as a pharaoh, had approached the oracle of Amun. And it was there he was told, according to legend, that he was the son of Zeus. Could he have chosen to be buried there, beside the god that legitimized him? Recent satellite surveys and archaeological digs around Siwa have revealed tombs, some of royal scale. But none conclusively belong to Alexander. Still, the myth persists, that somewhere, beneath desert sands, he sleeps. But why does it matter? Why do we still search for a corpse lost to time? Because Alexander is more than a man. He's a symbol, a bridge between East and West, a paradox of brutal conquest and cultural fusion. His empire fractured, but his influence shaped history. From Roman Caesars to Islamic scholars, from Christian theology to modern nationalism. Finding his tomb would be one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of all time, like discovering Troy or unearthing Tutankhamun's tomb. It would offer closure to a mystery that has outlived empires. And perhaps it would tell us more about the man behind the myth. In the end, perhaps it is fitting that Alexander's tomb remains hidden. For a man who styled himself after Achilles, who claimed to be the son of a god, and whose empire blurred the lines between myth and reality, maybe a grave is too small a thing. Image, statue of Alexander silhouetted against the sky. Maybe Alexander never belonged to one place, but to all places. Maybe he is not buried in the earth, but in memory. And perhaps that's where he always intended to be. Subscribe for more history in 1 minute.